Hey guys, welcome back to Elise Reads and Speaks. Today I am bringing you my December wrap-up. I read 15 books in the month of December, but I'm not going to talk about 15 because I recently did that reindeer readathon check-in where I talked, I think, about like 7 or 8 of them. And by the way, that has wrapped up and Team Snowflake won. Team Snowflake. I take it as like my own personal win because I'm very competitive, but still, it's a lot of fun. If you didn't participate this year, you totally should next year. Okay, but back to the monthly wrap up. I'm not gonna talk about the ones that I've already talked about. We're gonna go through the ones from the beginning of the month to the end of the month that I have not yet mentioned. Okay, so at the beginning of the month, I started off pretty bad. I started off with The Beast of Bellevue by Grace Chen. This was an arc that I got from NetGalley. I gave it 1 star because I hated it. Man, you know me, like I love fairy tale retellings, and this one was supposed to be a Beauty and the Beast retelling where Belle and the Beast are swapped and Belle is at Bellevue. Isn't that fun? I enjoyed that. So like, you know, the Beast in his castle is really Bellevue, and again, they were swapped, so Belle is in there. Okay, so it sounds interesting, but it was just, I felt it was poorly written. I felt that it was not YA. It read a lot younger, and these kids made very dumb decisions. And it wasn't even so much the dumbness, like, how is this girl in Bellevue researching somebody online and connecting with them online? Like, are they given free internet reign in an insane asylum? Like, doesn't that sound a little off to you? It sounded a little off to me. And it's just completely unbelievable. Like, she gets out of there and she ends up, you know, meeting up with whoever. And then it's also like a love triangle. It wasn't good, guys. It wasn't good. That's why I gave it 1 star. Then I listened to the audiobook of The Best Laid Plans by Cameron Lund. I loved this. I gave it 4 stars. I listened to it as I was doing a jigsaw puzzle that day. It was a delightful day. This is about a friendship between a girl and a guy. So this girl is very inexperienced, even though the friends that she has around her are all having sex. It's high school. You know, you're at that age where it feels like if you're not having sex, then you must be the last one on earth to do so. Like, do you remember how that feels? It's very intense, very intense. Okay, so this girl is at that point in her life, and she's trying to enlist the help of her best guy friend to teach her to have sex before she decides to get with this guy that she's actually interested in. But you know, it is the friends to lovers trope, very clear about that in the blurb, so you know what's gonna happen with her and her friend. But it was more than that. Like, I really liked some of the side storylines, and it made me question how we treat girls in high school and why girls feel like they need to keep up with everybody else. Like, why is that in our head that we need to be so adult-like when we're just kids in high school? Like, what is the end game there? I don't know. It just made me question a lot. And plus, I liked the different characters. I liked some of the lessons that I took away from it. I really enjoyed this contemporary. It's a good time. 4 stars. Then I read Escaping 11 by Jerry Chisholm. This was another arc that I had from NetGalley, and I also gave this one 4 stars. It was more like a 3.5 rounded up, if I'm being completely fair, but like, whatever, 4 stars for now. Okay, so this was a dystopia, and I was in the mood for it. So in this world, like the earth is considered uninhabitable, so they all start to live underground. And in this underground, there are different floors. So whoever lives on the top floor is kind of in charge of everything. Whoever lives on the bottom floor, like they can't even get jobs or feed themselves. They rely on people on the upper floors to kind of donate to them so that they can survive. All right, so that's not the only thing that's going on here. On the floor that this main girl lives on, there's a lot of fighting that goes on. You have to like fight to prove yourself, and that's how she meets this guy that she falls in love with, because you know it's gonna happen in YA. But there's also something else going on. So in this world, you are only allowed 1 child because, you know, you're all living underground, that the space is tight enough as it is. And she had grown up with a brother. There was some good stuff going on in here, and it's gonna go on to future books, and I liked where it left off, and I would read the next one. So that's why I rounded up to the 4 stars instead of down to the 3 stars. Then I read a graphic novel by Zepp. It was called Paris 2119, and I guess it just wasn't for me. I gave it 2 stars. I'm not huge into graphic novels. If you remember from this past year, I loved Invisible Differences. Loved it. And that is a graphic novel. I was not expecting to love it as much as I did. So I figured, okay, you know, let me try some other ones. I'll just, you know, pick whatever looks interesting. So I chose something on NetGalley, and I mean, like, the art was okay, but the story itself was kind of warped. I mean, again, 2119, so it takes place in the future. I like futuristic things, okay? We all have our things. And in this, you're able to teleport to another place by like going and sitting in this chair that'll teleport you, you know, from here to Russia or China or England, wherever you want to go, you like sit in this chair and it zaps you from place to place. Okay, that's what we do in 2119. But nothing is as it seems, and there's something dark and mysterious going on. I just felt that the story itself was underdeveloped. It was only 88 pages long. I didn't know it was going to be that short. And it just didn't go in a place that I wanted it to go. And I read it and thought, nah, it's not for me, not for me. Then I listened to the second book in the Westphalian Princesses trilogy. This is by Jessica Day George. The second one is called Princess of Glass. If you remembered from my last month wrap up, Princess at the Midnight Ball kind of focused on the 12 dancing princesses, that story. In Princess of Glass, some of these princesses carry over to the next story, and then there's somebody else that's supposed to be like the Cinderella of that story. This, again, was a good time. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it took Cinderella in a completely different direction, like with some of the magic that was happening. You know, for example, I'm not spoiling anything, but like instead of glass slippers, her feet start turning into glass. Like, I thought that was really creative. I like when somebody takes one of these fairy tales and puts a different spin on it. Okay, so let's take this, Princess of Glass, 4 stars. Creative, good story, loved the characters, was totally into it. And then we go back to Beast of Bellevue, where I gave 1 star, because like, what the hell was that? I don't know. But again, if you're into fairy tale retellings, I highly recommend this series. I cannot wait to get onto the 3rd one. Then I listened to the audiobook of Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This was translated from Japanese author Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and this was interesting. All right, I gave it 3 stars because it just wasn't what I wanted it to be. It wasn't as developed as I was hoping for, but I really thought the premise was interesting, and there were some things that I really, really liked about it. The things that I didn't like was really based around the characters. I felt like a lot of the characters were bland. You had this so interesting premise. Like, it was such a great idea, and just the execution was not great. So, meets in the middle at 3 stars. Let me tell you the premise, all right? The premise is that there is this coffee shop, and there are specific rules that go with this coffee shop. If you want to go back in time, you can. However, it needs to be only in this coffee shop. You need to sit in a specific seat. You cannot move from the seat, and you have to drink the cup of coffee that's in front of you before it gets cold. If it gets cold, you're like stuck as a ghost. If you drink it before it gets cold, yes, you're put back into present day time, but you're still alive as a human. Okay, so I really like that. I love stuff like that. Like, doesn't it sound so good? It sounds so good. And just some of the stories were like, okay, what are we doing? I don't know if it was one of those things that's like a little lost in translation. I'm not sure. But I will say, if this was made into a TV series, I could see this being my favorite show. Like, what a great idea. What a great idea. I mean, like 5 stars for idea, 3 stars for execution. Then I reread The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, I gave it 4 stars the first time, and I listened to the audiobook. This time I read it physically, and I again gave it 4 stars. There were things that I loved. There were things that I was just like, oh God, this is disgusting. I'm sure you know what I am talking about if you have read it. The character work is phenomenal. Like, I love when I feel like characters are going through a journey. I love a magical school where you can go to a school and choose to specialize in different things. She specializes in the magic. So that totally gets me in there. I guess the reason that it doesn't get a full 5 stars for me is that I can't even put it into words, that there is just a little something lacking where I don't feel the tinglies. Does that make sense? Like, you know how you read a title of a book that you've read before and it was a definite 5 stars and you're like, whoo, okay, that's kind of like what I look for. And Poppy War is great. It is a great, great book, but I feel like it's not one that gives me the tinglies. What a great reviewer I am. I know. Okay, but like there's really good stuff in here, really graphic stuff in here. Like if your stomach can't handle some of the grossness that honestly comes with sexual assault, don't read it. Don't read it. You'll sit there and curl into a ball and cry. I mean, I wanted to do that and I don't have triggers, you know? Ooh. But again, like this is an epic story. So I'm gonna read The Dragon Republic, hopefully this month, maybe next month, and then go on to The Burning God, the end of the trilogy. I'm excited for that one. And then I finished out the month with The Jewel by Amy Ewing. This was my second time reading this book. I read it years ago, so I didn't think I was gonna remember much from it. And then as I was reading it, I was like, oh yeah, like that happened, oh yeah. Dude, I enjoyed this just as much the second time around as I did the first time. I gave it 4 stars again. I will tell you, this is not gonna be for everyone. This is one of those, and I put it in my Goodreads review, that like my book club would probably skewer me for and make fun of me for and be like, what the hell is wrong with you? But you know what? We all have different tastes and it's fine, and I really enjoy this. Okay, so in this story, there is one center city called the Jewel. This is where all the money is with the founding families and they get everything because they came up with it, okay? But you know, it's kind of like Hunger Games, the capital. That's what I consider the Jewel in here. However, the people that live in the Jewel, the women, they can't get pregnant for some reason. Or if they do get pregnant, they're like deformities or something strange happens to the child. Like I don't even think the child can make it all the way through birth. So the girls that live on the outmost tier, that is called the Marsh, for some reason, I don't know who discovered it, but somebody discovered that these people, these girls, can act as surrogates for the ones that live in the Jewel. And like, again, I put this in my Goodreads review, but it's also like, how do you find out that something like that works? Like, I always think of the first person that decided to drink cow milk. Like, like that was a risk, man. I mean, it paid off clearly, but that was a risk. I feel like it's the same here. The surrogates, like, how did you know? How does that happen? Like you just decided to implant a girl with somebody's embryo? I don't know. But anyway, I don't really care because I really liked it. That's not the only thing that happens in here. I will say that there is a darkness that's going on. These women that are surrogates are kind of treated like animals, but they're treated like animals because they have something that these women in the Jewel want and don't have. They have a certain type of magic. And you find out a little bit more about it as the story goes on. I don't want to ruin anything. But I love where it left off. I cannot wait to go on to the second one. And I've never read the third one. So when I finally get there, it's gonna be a great time. I'm gonna find out finally what happens in this series. All right, so those are all the books that I read in December. I'll put like a little montage of the ones that I've already talked about right here. And there you have it, my 15 books for the month of December. I didn't do too shabby this month. And the Reindeer Readathon, Team Snowflake for the win. Whoop whoop. Okay, that's all I've got for you today, guys. Thank you for tuning in to Elise Reads and Speaks. I will catch you next time. Bye.